play catch up, but go ahead and finish all of the assignments in really one fell swoop.
Yeah.
So currently right now what we're doing in English for sophomores is we just started the book Lord of the Flies. So for my class, we finished chapter 1 this week. We are reading the book audio style. William Gold, we're listening to a version from William Golding. Each of my students has an individual packet. So, for example, we have vocabulary for chapter 1. Then there's reading comprehension questions to go along with that.
Gotcha.
There's literary terms for chapter 1. We did a character chart yesterday just for Jack, Piggy, and Ralph. And then today the kids took their chapter 1 vocabulary quiz.
Okay.
So when we get back, we'll go ahead and jump right into chapter 2.
Okay. Well,
so that's right.
And
go ahead.
And here's the thing about induction. Ideally, induction fits exactly with what you're doing in your class. Every once in a while, you get something that you're just thinking, wait a minute, I have these things that I need to do, either, established protocols, scheduling, pacing, curriculum things that you have to do, and it doesn't always match exactly.
Okay.
And that makes it difficult. However, and induction should never be difficult. It should be a natural part of what you're doing in your class. And so I will say this with project-based learning. Project-based learning is something that, takes weeks and weeks to fully accomplish it. However, there are small parts of it that you can accomplish inside of your classroom.
Okay.
And so I like to call induction project-based learning. I call it project-based learning light. Okay. Now, I don't know that anybody at RCOE would necessarily agree with that description, but I will tell you that but they also, I'm sure they would understand, that let's try to get some components. The important parts of project-based learning are things like an inquiry-based approach.
So then I didn't mean to cut you off, but I feel kind of dumb because I had something that we did in class that I feel like I could have recorded, and that was my students did a web quest all about William Golding, his experience in the Royal Navy, his experience in the war. They also did a web quest with regards to Auschwitz and Birkenau. All these different things that were related to his background that led him up to write this novel. And I wish I could have gone back and recorded that. My question is there a way that I can use their work as a submission?
Absolutely. Let's record a different component. One of the components has to do with a public product. Okay. So an exhibition of their learning, something that way. They created a blog entry. They spoke to a group. They did lots of things. So that public audience could be a part that you could record. There are other parts of the instruction. As I said, it's an inquiry-based approach. So just, some video of you working with students in an inquiry-based approach where they're generating the questions and you're helping to assist them in finding their answers. That would be a good thing as well, and that would totally suffice as far as the video evidence. But the physical evidence that you had of the products they did in the web quest, by all means, you can submit that.
Okay, that's no problem. Because I wanted to ask, because if when we come back from break that following Monday, and if I was to record a student sitting next to me and to try to, prod them to say, what led to the fire on the mountain in chapter 2, why don't, why don't other kids respect, what Piggy is saying? So that would essentially count as inquiry based. Like if I was if I was using questions to guide them toward, their ability to,
Yes.
come to an answer.
Yes, and if your questions are open-ended,
Okay.
if they're open-ended and they don't have a right wrong answer,
Okay.
yes, that certainly works towards that end.
Okay. That's
Yeah,
fair.
yeah,
That's fair.
yeah. Again, I don't want you to have. You should never have to create something brand new, to meet the requirements of induction. It should be
Yeah.
consistent with the things you're doing in the classroom. So,
Okay.
I'm doing just a quick, doing a quick little Google search here for. Have you been on the Buck Institute website?
No, and there's so many different resources that the program gives us. Sometimes it feels a little bit overwhelming.
I understand, but
So
I would say this: if you create an account at the Buck Institute, it's free. They just want an account that they can send you emails. So I don't know if you have a fake email. I have canejunk@gmail. I never check it.
All right.
But it's an account that I use for things that tend to generate a lot of spam. Unless you would like to get emails into your professional account, that's fine. Once you do that, though, you can peruse all of their resources, and if you search for William Golding, or you will get other teachers that have done some things, and then you can actually take some components of those and maybe work that into yours just a little bit.
Okay, cool. That's fair.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does.
And then the other thing that I was going to clarify here, and my internet is very slow. In fact, they warned me when I came into this room. I was assisting where I'm at Ranchero Middle School, and they had medieval day today, and so I volunteered to coach rounders, which is have you ever heard of rounders before?
No.
Rounders is the predecessor of baseball.
Wow.
But you go the opposite way around bases, and they aren't really bases; they're poles.
Okay.
And there's some other crazy rules. You can get half points and some things. And the home base is not home base; it's the castle, and you have to send runners out to get supplies like food, water, and weapons. And those are the bases. So it was kind of interesting. But they warned me that the internet wasn't real great. In your training, did you see the wheel? There was a round wheel.
I did.
It was okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Think about not necessarily fulfilling all of those components, because I would argue, unless you're teaching every subject area in a self-contained classroom, it's very difficult to get to every single one of those components. At the high school level, what that means is you would need to coordinate with fellow teachers in other subject areas. But think about the wheel and try to hit some of them, and that's what you would put into that plan. And if you notice on the CTI website, as well, in addition to your professional learning plan, they want you to upload that plan as well. By all means, it doesn't have to be as intricate as some of the ones that you would see on the Buck Institute. Or as detailed, but look for the things that would actually that you could fit with your students.
Okay. All right. That's fair.
Okay.
Okay. Cool.
All right. I was racing around here a little bit, and I heard your incoming call coming in, and I was like, I have to get some good internet, and obviously the internet wasn't that good because it wasn't working on my laptop, but.
Well, I'm glad we got the chance to catch up and check in. So, because I just had a couple questions about the cycle, and I just kind of needed your feedback and your guidance on that.
Yeah. Again, it's project-based learning light.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's not. There's no way you could do the full depth of that in this amount of time. Without a fair amount of setup with it, and honestly it's kind of sprung on you a little bit. So I'm trying to pull out that image still of that wheel, which actually I think is a really good. Okay, it's the red wheel. I always get confused. They changed colors a few years ago and changed
The
what
red
the
one?
yeah. I don't know if they showed
Okay.
you a blue one, but the red wheel is the one to go to.
Okay, gotcha.
Um,
All right, perfect.
okay, so for example, authenticity. You know, you're teaching Lord of the Flies, you know, with students, and authenticity. Okay, what's the real world connection there that you can make with students? That's a very inquiry based, project based kind of thing, and the kids create some kind of product that reveals, you know, how real world that is. That would be one kind of snapshot that you could do.
Could
And
that be like a journal response?
it would probably be ultimately a little bit more significant than that.
Okay.
Remember, one of the components is there's a public product. So maybe it's a journal on a blog site, you know, or they create a website where they respond to something, you know,
Okay.
something that could be public that way. I'm looking at another thing here: student voice and choice. That students regularly have, you know, autonomy and choice along the way, and that's another thing that you could evidence, you know, as well. Maybe in a video in your class of kids working on different things, you know, you divide it up where, you know, the kids choose which group they want to be a part of. Maybe one group is really looking at social structures, you know, and how that aligns with what they see with those boys on the island, and somebody else is looking at, you know, environmental challenges, and somebody else is looking at, you know, some different things like that, but they get to choose which one. Now there is reflection component, so journaling would fit exactly with the reflection component. You know, as long as students are thinking about their learning. So the reflection wouldn't be on Lord of the Flies. It would be on what did I learn about myself in this process. It could be maybe it's some skill set, some writing skill, or something like that, and the kids would compose about that. Does that make sense about the difference with the reflection?
It does, yeah.
Okay. I'm going around the wheel here. I mean, you could choose some different ones, and those would be the ones you'd kind of hone in on with students. And I think that makes it manageable in your classroom. Does that sound a little bit better?
It does, yeah. I mean, I'm thinking, obviously I'm thinking of, I think these 3 students that, I mean, they're going to struggle because they're that low, but I think the majority of them can handle it.
Okay. All right, good. All right, I have to apologize for the other night. I went out for a quick mountain bike ride with my son.
No, it's okay. It's all right.
And anyway, it turned into not a quick mountain bike ride. In fact, it turned into a walk home.
Oh, wow. Jeez.
So I apologize profusely for that. But we did have we had a good time. How does that help?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, definitely.
Maybe we could connect. You have spring break next week.
Yeah, it's
right?
early. We get 1 week, and then we come back.
Okay, and my spring break is the next week. That doesn't mean that we can't connect over that spring break.
Okay.
You know, but I want to honor your break specifically. My schedule's, you know, chaotic. You know, but maybe
that's fine. I'm not going out of town at all. I'm just taking my daughter to school, and that's it. So my days are free. I don't have golf practice at all during spring break.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, if we were going to connect next week, would definitely be fine. If you wanted to do it during your spring break, whatever's easier.
Okay. Yeah. Feel free to shoot me an email and say, okay, how does this thing look? But it would be awfully nice if maybe you could go into that template, the project-based template, and maybe just pick a couple components. Say, okay, I want to do this one, and I want to do this one, and this one I'm not able to hit very deeply given the amount of time, and not a whole lot of warning about this. That's fine. And then maybe send me a link to that, and then we'll upload that for your evidence of that.
Okay, perfect. I appreciate it, David.
All right, sure, anytime. All right, now I'm going to run out and pick up my kids.
All right, man. Well, hey, happy Friday.
Okay, you too. All right, we'll see you. All right,
Bye.
Bye.